Prepare to unleash your darkest fears with Prime Video's top 20 scariest horror movies. From heart-pounding scares to twisted tales of terror, these disturbing selections will haunt your dreams. Number 20, Spell.
This is for your own good.
Marquis T. Woods is a successful attorney flying home to rural Appalachia for his father's funeral when a violent storm forces his small plane off course. He crashes, awakens alone and injured, only to discover he's trapped in the attic of Ms. Eloise, a mysterious woodswoman claiming she can heal him using dark hoodoo magic. As she cares for his wounds, Marquis realizes that Eloise is weaving a sinister ritual. She's made a voodoo doll from his blood, skin, and personal effects. Every escape attempt, every plea for help is thwarted by occult bindings, eerie isolation, and the rising power of folk magic under the looming blood moon. Spell unfolds as a claustrophobic witch horror, where ancient curses and modern pride collide in a fight not just for survival, but for redemption and the soul of family. Number 19, Kiss of the Damned. Paolo, a screenwriter seeking quiet to finish his next script in a secluded Connecticut summer house, becomes captivated by Juna, an alluring woman whose mystery runs deep. As their bond grows, Paolo discovers Juna is a vampire surviving on animal blood, and he slowly accepts the darkness she embodies. Their lives are further complicated when Mimi, Juna's unpredictable and estranged sister, arrives, bringing chaos in her wake that threatens not just Paolo and Juna's love, but the delicate rules governing their supernatural world. The film blends erotic gothic romance with vintage 70s vampire motifs, exploring what love looks like when mortality, desire, and forbidden impulses collide under moonlight. Number 18, We Are Still Here.
30 years or so, the goddamn place just wakes up! And it demands new blood!
Anne and Paul Sacchetti are reeling from the death of their teenage son, Bobby. Hoping to heal, they relocate to a remote New England house in 1979, but the house has more than cold drafts and creaking floorboards. Strange voices, flickering lights, and an inexplicable presence awaken Anne's belief that Bobby still lingers in ghostly form. Their doubts deepen when spectral horrors, occult rituals, and vengeful spirits tied to a gruesome past begin stalking them. As Anne invites spiritualist friends into the fold, the Sacchettis discover the house was once built by the Dagmar family as a funeral home, and that every 30 years the evil beneath must feed, or it will spill its darkness across the town. Number 17, The Transfiguration.
I think it starts with drinking blood. Like you have a need.
Milo, a 14-year-old orphan living in Brooklyn with his older brother, retreats into vampire lore as a refuge from bullying, poverty, and grief. Obsessed with rules about vampires, hunting in the night, feeding only under certain conditions, he isolates himself while also scavenging for real victims in dark alleys and public restrooms to satisfy his cravings. When Sophie, another troubled teen haunted by loss, moves into his building, they form a fragile friendship, and Milo begins to question whether his vampiric obsession is a safe escape or a dangerous mirror to his inner darkness. Directed by Michael O'Shea, The Transfiguration is a moody, intimate horror drama that blurs the line between fantasy and reality, exploring trauma, identity, and the monstrous impulses we hide. Number 16, Unseen.
Murder today.
He's here.
Oh no, I see him. I'm gonna have to find another phone.
Sam, a despondent gas station clerk, takes an odd phone call. It's from Emily, a nearly blind woman running for her life through dark woods, chased by her menacing ex. With her glasses broken, Emily can barely see, but she calls Sam from a missed call and begs for help. Using video chat, Sam becomes Emily's eyes, guiding her over rough terrain, assisting in dire moments, each step weighed down by fear, isolation, and unpredictable danger. As Sam and Emily connect through shared trauma, one with regret over her mother's death, the other fighting to live, the tension ratchets up with every wrong turn, physical injury, and moment of self-doubt. Unseen is a tight, emotional horror thriller that twists the idea of connection and helplessness into a visceral, skin-crawling escape. Number 15, Excision.
Some of your behavior has been downright sociopathic. I don't know a teenager.
Pauline, a deeply disturbed high school student, feels trapped by her rigid, strongly Christian mother and craves approval she never seems to get. She's haunted by morbid fantasies, dreams of blood, surgeries, and mutilation. that blur the line between her imagination and reality, while also taking on her responsibilities at home, especially caring for her younger sister who suffers from cystic fibrosis. As Pauline's obsessions grow, so do her attempts to escape the dull suburban shame and adolescent alienation she feels. Excision is a shocking coming-of-age nightmare where body horror, dark sexuality, and grotesque dreams collide to expose the fragile boundary between wanting to heal and being consumed by what you wish to fix. Number 14. My heart can't beat unless you tell it to.
Would you like to play a game?
Wait!
I don't want to be sick.
Thomas is a frail, isolated young man with a mysterious affliction. He can't survive outside the darkness and depends on fresh human blood to endure. His older siblings, Jesse and Dwight, are his caretakers. And to keep him alive, Dwight prowls the night hunting people on society's fringes, while Jesse manages the home life and keeps the morbid balance intact. But the burden of this gruesome necessity begins to strain their love, their sanity, and even Thomas himself, who yearns for connection beyond the shadows. As Dwight questions whether he can continue his nightly hunts, Jesse resists change, fearful that letting go or seeking help would condemn Thomas to death. Number 13, American Mary.
That shouldn't come as a surprise to you. I'm changing specialties, Dr. Grant.
Mary Mason, a talented medical student buried under debt and desperation, accepts a job at a strip club to make ends meet and ends up thrust into the shadowy underground of extreme body modification. As she begins to perform cutting-edge, gruesome surgeries for clients who want to physically transform themselves in dangerous, unconventional ways, Mary's life spirals into moral torment. She's torn between ambition, guilt, and the shocking lengths she'll go to reclaim control over her body and identity. American Mary is a visceral body horror thriller that delves into the taboo of flesh, the power of consent, and what happens when artistry turns into obsession. Number 12, Men.
Guilt.
Stay away from me.
Harper Marlowe, recently widowed under tragic and troubling circumstances, seeks solitude from her grief by renting a remote countryside house in the village of Kotzen. Hoping for rest, she instead begins encountering peculiar men in the area, all played by the same face, Rory Kinnear. In moments of church sermons, pub conversations, and midnight walks through forests and tunnels, each version of this man reflects a twisted echo of Harper's trauma, guilt, and fear. As the boundary between psychological torment and supernatural folk horror blurs, Harper must confront not only her memories of her relationship with her late husband, but the deeper, more ancient dread woven into the land itself. Men is a surreal exploration of loss, identity, and the echo chamber of masculinity that clings when you most need escape. Number 11, In My Skin. Esther is a Parisian marketing professional whose life seems comfortably ordinary. Good job, steady boyfriend, plans for the future. Until one night at a work party, she injures her leg and things begin to unravel. After the accident, she becomes obsessively preoccupied with her own body. The injury, the flesh, the sensation of pain. What starts as fascination becomes self-harm as she uses knives, scissors, and any sharp object she can find, increasingly testing the limits of her body and her mind. Relationships strain. Reality blurs. In My Skin is a harrowing psychological horror that explores self-mutilation, bodily autonomy, and the desperation to feel something real when numbness takes over. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. The Night Watchman.
Gear up. Let's go kill some dead.
3 bumbling security guards working the graveyard shift at a Baltimore newspaper office face a blood-soaked nightmare when a mysterious delivery unleashes vampiric clowns into the building. As chaos spreads, they must team up with a rookie and a reporter to survive until morning. It's a gory, over-the-top horror comedy with bite and brutal laughs. The Fog. On the eve of Antonio Bay's 100th anniversary, a ghostly fog rolls in, carrying the vengeful spirits of mariners wronged by the town's founders. As the fog spreads, strange occurrences and brutal deaths follow. A group of locals must uncover the town's dark history before the past consumes them. Thanatomorphos. A A young woman in a decaying relationship wakes up to find her body slowly rotting, piece by piece. Her flesh peels, bruises bloom, and bones crack. But no medical explanation can stop the relentless decomposition. It's a deeply disturbing descent into body horror and emotional alienation. The Innkeepers. Two employees at a dying inn decide to investigate the ghost stories tied to the building's tragic past. What starts as a playful experiment quickly spirals into terror as one of them makes contact with something truly malevolent. The line between curiosity and danger blurs as the hotel reveals its final secrets. Number 10, Becky.
Becky! You're clearly a special girl!
I don't want to have to hurt you.
But I do want to.
13-year-old Becky Hopper is trying to heal after her mother's death and distant from her father, Jeff. A father-daughter weekend at their lake house is meant as a chance to reconnect, until a van of violent escaped neo-Nazis led by Dominic crashes into their lives, aiming to retrieve a strange key Becky found in the woods. What begins as a home invasion spirals into an all-out bloodbath. Becky becomes both prey and hunter, using whatever she can find: colored pencils, house tools, woodland traps, to defend herself and her makeshift family. Becky turns a quiet, grief-filled vacation into a savage relentlessness horror thriller, where the innocence of youth clashes with brutal evil at every twist. Number 9, The Eyes of My Mother. Francisca grows up on a remote farmhouse learning from her mother, once a surgeon, about anatomy and removing animal eyes, taught to see beyond the ordinary. A tragic intrusion shatters her childhood, introducing trauma and loss that set her on a path of profound isolation. As she becomes an adult, Francisca's longing for connection warps into something dark and uncanny, her quiet home turning into a space of obsession, grief, and distorted love. Directed by Nicolas Pesce, this black and white horror debuts with a mesmerizing art house descent into loneliness, using silence, stark visuals, and chilling restraint to explore what happens when the human desire for closeness goes catastrophically wrong. Number 8, Crawl.
Now!
I'm not leaving you here!
Haley Keller is a competitive college swimmer who races against time when a Category 5 hurricane barrels down on her Florida hometown. Ignoring evacuation orders, she ventures back to check on her estranged father, Dave, only to find him gravely injured and trapped in the crawl space under their family home. As floodwaters rise and the storm's fury intensifies, they soon discover they're not alone. Gigantic alligators lurk beneath the waters, turning every corridor, basement, and darkened room into a gauntlet. Haley must use her physical strength, instincts, and emotional resilience to save both her father and herself, even as the house becomes a cage. Directed by Alexandra Aja, Crawl is a high-stakes natural horror survival story that pits human vulnerability against ruthless nature, built on tension, claustrophobia, and the raw terror of being hunted when the rescue seems impossible. Number 7, Juan of the Dead.
Los disidentes son lentos. Por lo menos eso está a nuestro favor.
Y al parecer aguantan mucho el dolor. Me parece que están drogados.
Juan is a slacker in Havana living a laid-back life with his friend Lazaro, barely scraping by, drinking, and avoiding responsibility. When strange, horrifying incidents begin, bodies that aren't dead, people attacking each other, Juan realizes something more sinister than political dissidents is overwhelming the city. The dead are walking. Seizing opportunity amid the calamity, Juan starts a business called Juan of the Dead, charging families to kill and dispose of their zombified loved ones. As the zombie plague spreads, survival becomes messy, allegiances shift, morality blurs, and Juan's makeshift enterprise tests the limits of what people will do when civilization collapses. The film is a sharp, dark comedy horror that uses zombie chaos as both absurd entertainment and biting satire of social and political dysfunction. Number 6, The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Oh, no, it's a man. When do I get to be right about something?
In the remote Utah ski town of Snow Hollow, a series of gruesome murders of women shakes the community, each occurring around the full moon, each more disturbing than the last. Deputy John Marshall, an emotionally worn and alcoholic lawman, is dragged into the case as rumors spiral that something supernatural may be behind the killings. Battling his own inner demons, addiction, estranged family ties, and mounting pressure from his aging sheriff father, John tries to piece together whether the monster is real or if the real horror is the darkness within the human heart. The film blends folklore, mystery, and slasher-style horror into a chilling character study. Its unique tone comes from its uneasy balance of coming of rage, cosmic dread, and gritty personal decay, where fear isn't just from outside but inside the mirror as well. Number 5, Tetsuo 2, Body Hammer. Taniguchi Tomu is a mild-mannered salaryman with a wife and young son, but beneath the surface of his everyday life lie secrets he can't quite remember, like being adopted at age 8, when his son is kidnapped by a brutal gang of metal-worshipping skinheads. Tomu is forced into a violent confrontation with his past and his body. Injected by strange chemical agents and pushed to extremes by rage and grief, he begins transforming into something part flesh, part weapon, a machine monstrosity with deadly force. The film is a savage cyberpunk horror that marries visceral body horror with themes of industrial alienation, loss, and the terrifying idea that in anger, we might become the weapon we fear. Number 4, The House of the Devil. Samantha Hughes is a penniless college student in the early 1980s who, desperate for cash, answers an ad for a babysitting job in an isolated mansion. She arrives late at night, driven there by her skeptical friend Megan, to meet the eerie Ullman family who offer her a large sum to watch over an elderly woman. Samantha soon realizes things are far more sinister than she expected. Strange sounds, locked rooms, odd family photos, and shadowy figures begin to emerge. As the full moon and a lunar eclipse rise, Samantha becomes ensnared in a terrifying satanic ritual, struggling to survive the cult's horrific plans. The film is a slow burn terror piece, rooted in atmosphere and 80s occult panic. Number 3, Taxidermia. Spanning 3 grotesque generations of Hungarian men, Taxidermia opens with Moroskovany, a sexually repressed soldier trapped in a hellish outpost during World War II, whose disturbing fantasies ignite a legacy of obsession and shame. His son Kalman, raised in a communist Hungary, becomes a professional competitive eater, gorging himself to grotesque proportions in pursuit of glory. Decades later, Kalman's own son Lahoska, frail and quiet, works in solitude as a taxidermist, trying to make sense of the monstrous history he's inherited through flesh and ritual. Each chapter is more surreal and horrific than the last, blending brutal physicality with surreal visuals. Taxidermia is a nightmarish body horror odyssey of excess, repression, and legacy, where the human body is the battlefield for history, trauma, and transformation. Number 2, we need to talk about Kevin.
Just a sweet little boy. That's what boys do.
Eva Kachadorian was a successful travel writer, independent and free, until she becomes the mother of Kevin, a boy from birth whose silence, cruelty, and detachment grow into something deeply unsettling. As Kevin refuses affection, torments his younger sister, and isolates his father in loyalty, Eva's attempts to connect, discipline, or understand him only seem to feed his darkness. The narrative weaves between past and present, the early signs of Kevin's hostility, strained family interactions, Eva's growing dread, and a devastating event that forces her to reckon with what she's raised. The film is a harrowing psychological drama, where the true horror lies not in supernatural forces, but in the human mind's capacity for cruelty, guilt, and regret. Number 1, Shadow of the Vampire.
Well, you don't get him.
Who didn't just play the part.
But you're not feeding.
German director F.W. Murnau sets out in 1921 to shoot Nosferatu, an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, with the ambition of making the most authentic vampire movie imaginable. He hires the reclusive Max Schreck to play Count Orlok, claiming Schreck is a method actor who remains in character, works only by night, and never breaks the illusion of the monster. As the shoot progresses and strangeness mounts among the cast and crew, rumors and fears escalate. What if Schreck is not acting at all? When sickness, fear, and obsession weave tighter around the production, reality and artifice blur. The film twists behind the scenes filmmaking into a gothic mystery that forces us to confront how far one will go and how much one will lose in pursuit of cinematic truth. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Body Cam. After a routine traffic stop ends in a gruesome, inexplicable death, a police officer uncovers disturbing footage that points to supernatural forces. As more officers are targeted, the mystery deepens into a tale of vengeance from beyond the grave. The haunting connects personal loss with a hidden truth buried in the department's past, the Deep House. A pair of urban explorers dive into a sunken house in a remote French lake, hoping to uncover something creepy for their channel. But what they find beneath the water is a perfectly preserved home hiding terrifying secrets. As the walls close in, their air runs low and supernatural forces awaken. Waxwork. When a group of teens visits a mysterious wax museum, they find that each exhibit is more than a display. It's a portal into a living nightmare. One by one, they're pulled into horrific worlds based on classic monsters. Escaping becomes a race against time and the supernatural. Blood Vessel.
Shifters. They move by night, hunting. I've been killing monsters for years. A few more won't hurt.
Stranded at sea during World War II, a group of survivors boards an abandoned Nazi vessel drifting silently in the dark. What awaits them inside isn't salvation, but an ancient evil sealed below deck. As the bodies pile up, the line between war horror and supernatural terror vanishes.